Nagatoro Season 2 continues where we left off. Nagatoro and Senpai, because I refuse to call him by his actual name, are as close as ever, but still are having a hard time being honest with each other. The season mainly focuses on them being closer as romantic partners, making it totally obvious how they feel about each other, but both are too shy to get the words out. We're at a point now where bullying is hardly in the show at all. The most Nagatoro will do is light teasing, kind of repeating past insults she's already said, but it's starting to get more and more obvious that she likes him as the episodes progress. Every arc in this series progresses the couple slowly but surely, developing them to be closer to one another, as well as developing their own individual characters smoothly. Senpai becomes more confident as Nagatoro is becoming more honest. Both characters are changing for the other so that they can be the ideal partner to each other. This series comes off as just a regular romance now. Something incredibly vanilla coming from an author who is anything but. You wouldn't expect something from this creator with this premise to be as wholesome as it is. If you want something rather tough to read though, check out the original doujin for this series. It's downright verbally abusive, and its first person point of view makes it seem like she's insulting the reader. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the original idea for the series, some kind of masochistic bully porno, considering Nanashi's deep history in doujins. Hell, I read one about a vampire, and that vampire had pretty much the exact same character as Nagatoro. She's just more of a bully. So to see it now, slowly developing into an incredibly charming romance between two characters who struggle with honesty, with relatable characters and moments that would generally pull at your heart, it's just surprising is all. The shift in the story for this anime is a welcome surprise for me. It's adorable to see these two try to get their feelings known to each other. It still keeps the elements that made the show known, but it never gets to the point of straight up bullying. Let's start this off by talking about our main boy, Senpai. I brought this up in my previous review, but I don't think I went as in depth as I probably should have, so here we go again. I feel like there's a subset of people who don't like this character just based on the fact that he's a wimpy protagonist. History has shown me that anime fans are not very accepting of this kind of character. To give those people the benefit of the doubt, Nagatoro is the cover girl, and her name is in the title. So I can't blame those who've never seen this series to assume he's meant to be some kind of self-insert, or a very simple relatable character for us losers to latch onto and sympathize with. But if you really look deeper here, Senpai is actually a very well-developed and inspirational character at the moment. Surprising considering the show we're talking about. I know. He's aware of his frail nature. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes the words Nagatoro says to him to heart. And he's clearly struggling with some level of social anxiety. There are moments when he really wants to hang out with Nagatoro, but he either holds himself back because he's scared of holding her back, or he just doesn't know how to approach the situation, thus leading to him being awkward and making a fool of himself. There's a pretty cute moment when Senpai's trying to ask Nagatoro to go to the zoo with him, and Nagatoro is like helping him through it. A similar scene happens again towards the end where he's trying to ask her out on a date. But he knows his flaws, and he also wants to get better. He wants to speak up when people are disrespecting Nagatoro. He wants to be able to protect her and also go on dates with her and talk with her. So he wants to grow both physically and socially. He's not just a character we're meant to relate to. He's a character trying to get over the normal anxieties that plague a high school teen. He's always been a loner. His love for art was the only thing he had. And now there's someone in his life who he wants to change for. He's far from perfect, but he's generally working on getting better. So when he does make a notable stride, it not only furthers his character and the main relationship, but it's always a pretty powerful moment because it spends a good portion of the series showcasing his attempts at change. I think he's a highlight for the show. A big aspect as to why this show is so heartwarming to me. Seeing a character slowly get over their anxiety and confidence issues is always a great way to develop a character to me, since it's so relatable to most people who might have gone through the same thing. Let's talk about that partner, shall we? Since the story is a lot more focused on the progression of the main couple, this makes Nagatoro's character a little more interesting. We see a much more vulnerable side of her. It's quite obvious at this point that she has feelings for him, so every episode, you see this little charade of hers break more and more. The teasings are rehashed because they aren't meant to insult or toy with Senpai anymore. I think it's the only way she knows how to express the love she feels. Constantly lightening the mood after an awkward situation is how she deals with this feeling, even if it seems to be repeating. It was shown before that Nagatoro isn't exactly the romantic type. Not like Senpai where his emotions are all over the place and he just can't control them because he's horny. Rather, Nagatoro seems completely disconnected whenever romance is involved, like she's emotionless. However, when she's around her dear Senpai, it seems that her emotions run wild as well, and the only way she can control it is if she teases him. She doesn't know any other way because it seems Senpai is the only person that's made her feel this way. So when you consider that, when Senpai and Nagatoro are together, they are very similar, despite their differences in popularity and circumstances. Both want to be together, but neither know how to approach this situation. It's also pretty obvious to me that she hides the fact she wants to do certain things with Senpai by suggesting it in a way so it comes off as her teasing Senpai rather than generally wanting to do it. The biggest example of this is when Nagatoro says that if Senpai wins a match in the judo tournament, then she'll give him a kiss. It seems to do it under the guise of teasing or like an award that Senpai has to win. That premise alone gives her the confidence to suggest it to him in the first place. The aquarium date was similar to this as well, where she designed a game that Senpai has to pass, when in reality she just really wanted to go on a date with him. It seems like Nagatoro really loves him a lot, but she just can't be honest about it. This makes their relationship incredibly cute to watch, since Senpai is the exact same way. They're overthinking rather than just following their heart, which seems to be the main theme of the series. Besides that, Nagatoro's character as a whole is just incredibly entertaining to me. I always enjoyed the trope of a Gyaru girl slowly falling in love with a more nerdy guy, and I'm glad that this trope is beginning to appeal more and more in modern romance anime. She's just a really solid character right now, and I can't wait to see her grow from here, especially now that she actually has a goal to complete now. There were 3 new characters added to the show. All 3 of them affect Nagatoro's character in different ways, and 2 of them are minor characters at the moment. That would be Orihara and her big sister that I will refer to as Anetoro, because that nickname is too perfect. Anetoro, who's barely in the show, which is a damn shame, is essentially a bigger version of Nagatoro, and she teases her a fair bit. This is just another way to showcase a more vulnerable side to Nagatoro, since one thing older sisters love to do is embarrass their younger siblings. I don't think she's going to be that important later on, but she is an entertaining character when she's around. Then there's Orihara, a character who's essentially Nagatoro's rival in judo. And she's a character I can actually see being more important in the next season. She shows off a side of Nagatoro that we've never seen before, where she's a lot more determined and dedicated. After all, the main goal for Nagatoro is to eventually beat Orihara in a judo match, so that she can get her kiss. Orihara also has a rather entertaining relationship with Nagatoro. Orihara is just so positive around Nagatoro and sees her as like a role model, and Nagatoro just doesn't act the same way at all. These 2 characters gave Nagatoro depth specifically, but the final new character helps the main relationship in general, and is also just a really entertaining aspect of this season. Hana gets introduced as Senpai's new kohai immediately after Nagatoro joins the judo club, meaning she won't have as much time to laze around with Senpai. You understand where I'm going with this, right? An introduction of another kohai that's going to be alone with him legit the second after Nagatoro leaves the club makes Nagatoro jealous, which speeds the progression of this relationship. And due to Hana's straightforwardness, she's a perfect addition to a series where the 2 main characters have trouble being honest with each other. I don't want this to get misconstrued. Hana is far from competition for Senpai. She actually realizes Senpai and Nagatoro like each other instantly and tries to help Senpai be honest with her. But looking at this from Nagatoro's point of view, oh, she's definitely competition, especially since she's Sana's cousin, a character Nagatoro knows Senpai is pretty close with. Since Sana will be absent from the show more often due to her going to college, Hana fills that role of a goofy comic relief beautifully, but she also fills another role as both competition for Nagatoro and the wingman Senpai definitely needed to tell him to just be honest with his feelings. Another reason Hana is the best add-on in the series is because she's absolutely precious. She won me over in a single scene, and she stays amazing throughout the few episodes she's in. Let's briefly go over Nagatoro's friend group. They didn't develop all that much. Sakura is still a slut. I thought it was more of a teasing guys thing with her, but nope. That scene on the hospital bed tells me all I need to know. She's just a slut. She sees her guardian angel as a courtesan, for God's sakes. Her body count is in the 50s.
No, don't do it. No, don't do it. I'm a virgin.
Yoshi is a character I'm actually really into. It's very briefly mentioned, but it seems she's purely a follower, hence why she keeps repeating whatever someone else says. It's even shown in the first season, she has trouble when she's by herself. So when she finally goes against Gamo in the end and thinks for herself, it's a pretty cool moment for her. Gamo even says she was surprised it was Yoshi that went against her, because Yoshi is always following the group. So that makes me think that's what they were going for with this character. I think Yoshi is a pretty underrated aspect, and in a different series with a different focus, she'd probably be an interesting character to learn about. The final character is Gamo. Out of all the girls in Nagatoro's friend group, she was always built up as the most sadistic, a genuine bully at times. But similar to Nagatoro, Gamo turns the bullying down in this season. Instead, she actually is the one to begin noticing Nagatoro and Senpai like each other and has started to help push them, essentially becoming Nagatoro's wingwoman towards the end of the season. I think that development was pretty neat, but that's pretty much it for her. As I watch more modern romance anime, I'm beginning to notice a focus more on the side cast. In some cases, most recently Tomo-chan is a girl, the side characters are built to stand on their own, rather than only existing to further the main couple. Sadly, Nagatoro is not an example of this. There are interesting concepts, but they are usually put to the side to further the main couple. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. The intention of this story is to be a fun little comedy while progressing a nerdy guy popular girl couple. This story succeeds at that. But I do think as we get closer to the end, a lack of depth in the side cast is what's holding this series back from being a top modern day rom-com for me. A notable difference from Season 1 to Season 2 is the studio change from Telecon Animation Film to OLM, known recently for their incredible work on Komi Can't Communicate. Usually, this is a pretty big deal, but most of the staff actually stuck around for the second season, with the only major change happening in the directing wars. So it does seem a little bit different at moments, but it's mostly the same as the first season. I did notice some scenes where the colors seem more vibrant, making bigger moments look prettier than before. All of the goofy comedic moments stayed the same. I've always enjoyed Nanashi's character designs, and the various new characters are just more to talk about. Hana looking and acting identical to her cousin was pretty funny. I also noticed the landscapes looked really beautiful at times, especially the colors used in that beach scene. Overall, the animation and art only improved this season. Music is done by the same people, so it's pretty much the same all around. The main pieces of music I want to talk about are the OP and the ending, both of which aren't bad in the slightest. The Season 1 OP, Easy Love, is a song that I absolutely adore. It's incredibly catchy and fast-paced, and it also has a nice style that features scenes from the actual show, but it's edited in a way so it doesn't come off as repetitive. Love Crazy is very similar, but plays more to Nagatoro's changing feelings towards Senpai rather than just toying with him. But I prefer the former as a song, but Love Crazy isn't bad neither. Sumire is the perfect voice for this series, so I hope she keeps doing the OP. The ending is a lot better to me than the last one though. It's more in the line of the girls teasing Senpai, and I just think it has a catchier melody. It's sung by the Nagatoro friend group, just like last season's, and it has some pretty solid visuals as well. Not a whole lot to say here. If you thought I was done talking about Sumire Uesaka, you'd be wrong. Because she's still the perfect voice for Nagatoro's cocky, loud bullying, but something that this series showcased a lot more is how perfect her voice is for Nagatoro's more vulnerable side. She's incredibly talented and experienced in voicing characters similar to Nagatoro, and she's brilliant. Very simple. Now copy what I just said for Sumire and paste it for Senpai's voice actor Daki Yamashita, because holy crap, is the casting perfect for this series. There are moments when it's hard not to visualize Deku when you hear him, which isn't really his fault. Deku and Senpai are similar characters, so it's obvious he'd voice that character similarly, but it is something you'll notice very often when watching the series, especially because Deku is such a popular character.
ゲームの賭けでなんとなく聞き出すのはなんか違うというか
Sayumi did an amazing job as Hana. The flat delivery of her words just adds a lot to the character to me. And the rest of the cast did solid. I talked about them more in my other videos, so I don't want to repeat what I said here. And I just overall have less to say about them. Nagatoro Season 2 continues the quality of Season 1 as we transition to more of a romance. The main two characters are developing really well, and the rest of the cast is entertaining. The production is still solid as well. It's not a romance that'll wow you or anything, especially in an era where we're getting really good romance anime, but it does have its funny moments, and I do think it can be generally sweet at times, something that surprised me for a series that's about bullying. Thank y'all for watching, this has been Kikaya, and see ya!